Live, another amazing episode just with me and Paul. Jan isn't here. Hi, Paul.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing fine. It's just solo. I'm flying solo today, so.
That's good. That's not a bad thing.
No. That's perfect. I like it, and I'm happy to have you here. So yeah, Paul, we've had a really crazy week. It's always a crazy week. Let's be honest.
It's always a crazy week in crypto.
But sometimes it's a little bit crazier than normal. And last week there was so much news. I think you might have had to work overtime.
I did. I tell you, the news these days, it keeps me going literally all day long. I'm reading news. It's unbelievable.
Yes. So how do you manage it? Because I think you might be reading like 100 articles a day or something.
Yeah, and what I try and tell people is this. If you look at my website, it's humanly impossible to digest that amount of information. So a lot of the stuff I do scan, and because I've been in the industry for a while, I can tell if something is relevant or not for people to see. So that's the way I sort of make it through all of this content. But because it is coming literally all day long, yes, I spend a lot of time at my standing desk, collecting news, listening to videos, podcasts, reading articles, things like that. It's my full-time job.
You do it all by yourself?
I do it all by myself, believe it or not.
Wow. Okay. I respect that. Actually, these days I'm so busy. I can only read the headlines almost.
Yes.
I can almost not read the whole article anymore. It's that bad. But that's why I'm happy you're here.
Exactly. I tell a lot of people, just reading the headlines, it can be dangerous and a little misleading because there's a lot of clickbait. But I also believe that reading the headlines will give you a narrative generally of what's going on. And as long as that's what you're looking for, that's fine. I mean, if you're trying to get to the specifics, yes, some of these headlines are a little misleading. You have to read into the article to get more, but it's fine.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I prefer reading the whole article, but then I always, say I'll do it tomorrow, and then you're here. So,
exactly.
And then there's no need anymore. So right. What's your favorite news item of the week?
It's got to be Michael Saylor. I mean, how could Michael Saylor not be the most? As a matter of fact, I told somebody this pump we just got, I guarantee it was Michael buying. It had to be Michael buying.
Yeah, he started selling his stocks, wasn't it, in his portfolio to buy Bitcoin?
No. So the first thing he did is he raised that $500 million on a 6.125% bond is what he did. That's the yield on the bond that he sold. And then he said the company MicroStrategy was going to sell another $1 billion in stock to raise more money for Bitcoin. So yeah, they're selling MicroStrategy stock so they can raise $1 billion.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think that he's only buying. I think he never sells, right?
Correct. He only buys. He never. Again, from what we hear from him and from what he told Laura Shen, if he's selling, he is the biggest hypocrite on earth because he literally lambasted Laura Shen for even asking him the question about would he ever sell. And he was like, Laura, you never sell.
Yeah, well. Never say never in crypto is my rule, but yeah, Michael Saylor is of course almost like a saint, a protected figure within crypto.
He is, but here's what I tell people: Michael understands this technology in a way that I don't think any other person does. Because for someone to buy as much as he's buying and to be so convicted to say I'm never ever gonna sell it, he understands something much more different than everybody else. And that's why he says he's never going to stop buying. He's going to keep buying until he can't buy no more.
And if you compare that, for example, to Elon Musk, who is all over the place. I just read that he's gonna allow you to mine Bitcoin again with his Tesla, or that you can buy his Tesla with Bitcoin.
Yeah, so what Elon said, and it's almost idiotic what he said. He said, hey, listen, when 50% of Bitcoin is green, then I will allow transactions with Bitcoin to happen again. Okay, so Elon, how do you determine that we're 50% green mining? Like, is there even a way to determine that? I don't know, but it's already 50% renewable anyway. So for him to say that is dumb, but yeah, I've completely tuned him out.
Yeah, no. And I think Kevin O'Leary also made that point before, that a lot of American investors want to invest in Bitcoin, but are afraid to because of the green issue, and they only invest in virgin Bitcoin that they actually can prove that they mined themselves. So they're collaborating with miners in America, if I understood that correctly.
You did. It was at the Bitcoin Miami 2021 conference. And basically, yes, Kevin O'Leary started out by saying this crazy, idiotic stuff. The whole ESG is way overblown in the first place. But then he was like, there's trillions of dollars headed toward Bitcoin if you guys can get this ESG thing figured out. Well, environmental sustainability and governance has been around forever. It's nothing new. And this was around back when Bitcoin even got started. So for them to sit here and talk about this as if it's supposed to be some crazy thing, it's like, guys, Bitcoin should be fungible. Right. So one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin, no matter where it comes from, no matter what hand it's in. So I tweeted out to Kevin O'Leary. I said, okay, Kevin O'Leary, those dollar bills you got in those pocket, they came from criminals at some point. So do you not want those dollars?
It's crazy.
It's crazy. It's a crazy conversation.
And also, at a certain moment, you also want to exchange your Bitcoin and maybe trade it with some other big institution. And where did they get their Bitcoin? It's unworkable.
It's unworkable.
But on the other hand, there's also some other really good news from El Salvador.
Yes, the El Salvador news. Listen, when Jack Mallers first titled his session, "One Small Step for Bitcoin, One Giant Step for Humanity," a lot of people were like, oh, here we go again. It's going to be some hyped up event. I was talking to a well-known figure in the space, and he goes, yeah, this Bitcoin hype stuff, I don't know, they're hyping up. It's going to be, and I'm like, I don't know if it is or not, but when he announced it, a lot of people were like, El Salvador. But now everyone is like, oh my God, this is so massive. It's like, yeah, it's massive because they've started a whole new trend, and that is countries adopting Bitcoin as legal tender.
Yeah, because I actually saw Mexico also considering, and Paraguay, and I think African countries are looking into it, Nigeria, and I think Tanzania. Yeah, there's like a whole slew of countries who are now starting to wake up. And I think, if you're like a developing country and you're under the hegemony of American dollar, you basically have nothing to lose and everything to gain, especially if you're first. So yeah, why not? Right?
Yeah, and what El Salvador has done is that they kicked off basically what I would consider an arms race for Bitcoin, legalizing it. And now every country that's come out that sort of said they were going to ban it, they're having to recant. Oh, we're not going to ban it. We're just going to legislate it. We're going to regulate it. Okay. And then before you know it, it's legal tender. Okay. It's crazy watching this whole thing play out.
No, yeah, totally. And we'll also dive into silly countries who try to ban Bitcoin.
Yes.
I know
they'll never do it.
But when you look at El Salvador, it actually started in a beach place in El Salvador, and they built an economy around Bitcoin, which was working really well based on the Lightning Network, because that keeps the fees close. And basically, most of the civilian population is already sort of using Bitcoin or crypto-related products.
Exactly. And that article came out not too long ago. Actually, I'm going to see if I can find it real fast. El Salvador Village adopts Bitcoin. And when that article was published and it was talked about, a lot of people still didn't even give nod to the fact that here's a village that's decided to operate solely on Bitcoin, and no one ever really made a big deal about it. And I published it and I tweeted about it and stuff like that, but it was sort of like, meh, who cares? And that's the problem with America, is that we think everything revolves around us, and we think like whatever happens here determines what happens in the world, when in reality, there are places where Bitcoin really does have a great use case, and that is in developing countries, just like El Salvador. So, yeah.
And also in the Philippines, I heard it's mass adoption, and but basically, those places have the most to gain, of course, and with the whole economic system sort of deteriorating, it raffles at the edges, at the margins. So the revolution probably starts at the margin.
It does. As Mark Yusko would say, it starts at the edge, right? He's all about the edge. It starts at the edge.
Yeah. It's basically also the person or the group who has the most to lose is, of course, the American system, which is still trying to get hold of the situation, but it's probably the last one who wants to jump in the boat, probably.
Exactly. We're always late. We're laggards.
Yeah, they're in a very different position. And but I also heard just today that El Salvador government is maybe thinking about paying salaries in Bitcoin.
That's right. Absolutely. And again, we saw that happen where in Miami first, they were the first ones talking about actually paying government workers in Bitcoin. And there have been other people. And here's the thing is that it's sort of, big woo woo now, but guess what? Guess who the first person was to accept their salary in Bitcoin? It was Olaf Carlson-Wee. When he worked at Coinbase, he got paid 100% in Bitcoin. Now he runs Polychain Capital, which is one of the larger hedge funds that's out there. I think they're considered hedge funds. But yeah, so Olaf Carlson-Wee did this, and this was back in like 2013, I think it was, 2014.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And you see it spreading around. I have also here the article about Mexico, which I'll also up here. Those people who might not be aware of how fast it's spreading. And the funny thing is they all do those laser eyes.
Yeah, the whole laser eyes thing was awesome. Did you see the one laser eyes where it was South America and it had the two little eyes on it? I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, I like it. It's a nice way to show allegiance, or not allegiance, but like what you call it?
Solidarity.
Solidarity is a better word. Yeah. Well, and there's of course also a country which was thinking about banning Bitcoin, because those countries also exist. And we touched upon it. It's mostly Western countries who have the most to lose. And Amsterdam, or at least Holland, a minister, not a minister, he was from the Central Planning Bureau, CPB, Centraal Planbureau. Wopke was talking about maybe banning Bitcoin because Bitcoin is very dangerous and it could crash any moment, and we have to protect all the people from the crash. You get that a lot, right?
Yeah, it's almost nuts. But like I said, what we see and what I told people is that Bitcoin can't until Bitcoin does, and that'll lead us probably to another conversation. I won't bring it up, but I'll wait. But Bitcoin can't until Bitcoin does, and so everyone will like to say, "Oh, Bitcoin's too slow. Oh, Bitcoin's too bad. Oh, blah blah blah. Oh, it's used by." And then slowly but surely, Bitcoin chips away at everyone's issue that they have with it, and then it becomes the thing. This is why people don't understand Bitcoin maximalism. Again, I'm not necessarily a Bitcoin maximalist, especially not a toxic one. And I think some people like being toxic. I don't. But this is why it all comes back to Bitcoin eventually. And people don't understand that. And so hopefully in time they will.
Yeah, and I have to correct myself because Wopke Hoekstra is from CDA, or it's a Christian party who's actually in the government at the moment. And he was correcting Peter Hazekamp, and he's the director of the Central Planning Bureau. So it was Wopke who said, like, it's silly to ban Bitcoin, it will never work, and it's much better to regulate it instead of banning it, which is, I think the way to go if you're a government.
Do you know who he is?
Peter Hazekamp, the one who wanted to ban it? I know of him. I know him by name and I know him by face. And I know the Central Planning Bureau, they give advice to the Dutch government about, they make the calculations about how much the economy is going to grow. And then of course they also always have to rectify it downwards, because they start like saying, the economy is going to grow 10% or whatever silly number they'll put out, and then they have to corrected back down till 0.1 or 0.1.
How do you pronounce your finance minister's name? Is it Wopke?
Wopke
Hoekstra.
Hoekstra.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not good with it. I saw his name and I was like, how do you pronounce that?
Yeah. Some Dutch names are really hard to pronounce, and especially if there's a hard G in there or a G. Foreigners always have some trouble with the G, but also the U, the Hoekstra. Yeah, it's difficult to pronounce. But it's a nice article. It also goes into that Amsterdam might be the new financial hub of Europe. I'm not sure about that. I think London will keep its claws on the financial sector. I think if they lose that, then you can basically, I think it wouldn't end well for London if they lose it.
Well, that's sort of what we were saying here is that, New York has always been the finance capital. It's where all the big money is. But that's starting to make its transition down to Florida. And, will we see Miami all of a sudden rise up and be some huge place? Will Texas all of a sudden take some chomping into it? It's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
But what's also interesting about the articles, it seemed to suggest that the Dutch government is actually holding or at least very much involved with Bitcoin behind the screens. I personally, I wouldn't be surprised if they were. I mean, the Dutch government isn't stupid, and the noises coming out of Holland, except then by what's his name again? Hazekamp. Except some people, most of them are pretty forward-looking and open to tech, and especially fintech. There's been, the fintech discussion in Holland has been going on for over 10 years already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, and Plan B.
That's what's going to be interesting is that what people fail to realize, and again, I think that it's just human nature. We enjoy grouping things and coupling things together. And even though you have the government there in the Netherlands, Dutch government, the reality is that it's made up of individual people. And a lot of those people are going to become Bitcoiners. They just are. And then they're going to legislate from a perspective of friendly to Bitcoin. And it's going to be some battles and pushing back and forth. But the reality is if we think that those people are not tuned enough and that they don't have some exposure, we're crazy. They do.
Yeah, I totally agree. It always starts from the bottom up or from the edges, if you want. Yep. And then at a certain moment, people who are actually in government are holding it, so they'll start favoring it or legislation towards it. So I totally agree. And I also see some green shoots when you look at the market, because I also wanted to touch upon the market. What is your take, Paul?
Yeah, so I just listened to Bob Lucas's 4-year journey, the new 4-year journey that he just put out. And, we're going to see this. And again, I think this run that we're having is based on a few things. I mean, again, Grayscale, they just spent $2 billion this weekend, right? And I think that this recent pump is from Grayscale's buying this weekend $2 billion worth of digital assets. And then you get Michael Saylor, who is now probably starting to buy right now. And I think some of this push we're seeing is his bots going to work buying. And then you're going to have another $1 billion, which probably won't come into the market for another month or so because it's going to take time for them to raise that money. But then you got news like Susie Ortman is now recommending her people get exposure to Bitcoin. You've got other financial analysts that are starting to tell people to get into Bitcoin. So the money's going to continue to come in. And I think it's a fear that the people that didn't get it under 40 are now like, oh, crap, I've got to get in. And so now they're going to rush in, and that'll push us right up to 50.
Yeah, and it also follows Plan B's model, because it was kind of scary, or at least his model was on the edge of breaking, as he called it himself. So he says like, okay, we'll now see if my model actually works, because we're really at the edge. And it seems to have bounced. So that's a good sign. And it bounced quite strongly. And I think I think it was kind of interesting because like last week and especially the week before, we actually had like a divide almost between technical analysts on the one hand, led by Peter Brandt, of course, famous, really good guy. And on the other hand, you had all the fundamental analysts like Willy Woo, Plan B, but also a lot of others who said like, okay, this is it. It's gonna reverse. We cannot go much lower than this. So it was actually very interesting to see where TA and fundamentals, because Bitcoin is way below actual value. When you look at the actual value of a Bitcoin, it was way below what it should be worth.
Correct.
So you would expect it to start bouncing upwards, and that seems to be happening now.
Yeah, and what I saw through the news, because I'm looking at all of this, is you're right. You had some of the folks that were saying, oh, I think we're heading to a bear market. As a matter of fact, I posted a couple of those on Twitter and people were like, yeah, they're crazy. We're not in a bear market. You can forget that. We're still in a bull market. Now, I will say Plan B did maintain his stance that we were still in the bull market. Our good friend Phil Boswani said the same thing. He maintained that we're in a bull market. As a matter of fact, Phil Boswani called it to the day, June 7th. He said we'd have the June 7th low, and we got it. I was like, I don't know how this dude called this a month early, but he's good.
Yeah, he's one of the best, if not the best.
He's not the best. And so what I also saw, though, is I also saw the on-chain analysts, people like William Clemente and, of course, Willy Woo. Those guys were still saying that we're still in a bull market. Things are still fine. We're looking at the on-chain action, and it's showing that it's good. Now, Willy Woo did come out and take his prediction down a notch, and he said we're going to be somewhere between 100 and 200. So, but again, when I tell people, I don't care if they have to rescale their predictions, but here's the reality. Listen, if we in the year at 100, I'm a happy man. Come on, like, how could you not be happy?
No, I would sign for that. But like he says, it's a moving target. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like in a month's time, he has to up it up again and to come nearer to Plan B's model, because Plan B hasn't scaled down yet.
No, he's still at 288 by the end of the year. Citibank was at 318. So the reality is that yes, and if you listen to Tyler Swope's Chico Crypto, he said December 15th. We would be at 150,000. So again, these combination of all these people is still between 100 and 2. I say easy between 100 and 2.
Yeah. Speaking about 150, I also got this article. 150 billion asset manager jumps into crypto markets in partnership with NASDAQ. And that is the group, if I say it, Victory Capital.
Yes.
And they're gonna make a product, or let's see, that it plans to launch a private fund that will track the NCI, and the NCI is the Nasdaq Crypto Index, and it will offer private funds a way to track the Nasdaq Bitcoin Reference Price Index and the Nasdaq Ethereum Price Index, because Ethereum is also being scooped up in large amounts. Like you said previously, Raoul Pal has actually more Ethereum, I think, than Bitcoin at the moment, right?
He does. Raoul Pal was 100% Bitcoin, then he was 80-20 Bitcoin Ethereum, and now he's 55 Ethereum, 25 Bitcoin, which is just mind-blowing.
Yeah, it is. It's really mind-blowing. And it's, of course, infuriating the Bitcoin maxis who only want Bitcoin to go up. Here we go. Ethereum and I think Cardano and XRP. Oh yeah, XRP. XRP, that will make a lot of people happy.
Right, exactly. I mean, a lot of these assets is what I tell people again, even if 99% of them just disappeared off the face of the earth, you're still left with 100 projects. And of those 100, whether people like it or not, your XRPs, your Polkadots, your Cardanos, your Chainlinks, your EOSs, they're going to be there because all of those projects are double-digit billion-dollar market cap assets. They're not going to disappear. No matter how much we hate them, they're going to be around.
And I think you're also following the news around XRP with the SEC and the court case. How do you see that going at the moment?
Listen, I'm going to make a call. I'm going to say Ripple's going to win this case. Listen, they're just going to win the case. Again, the news came out today. Ripple scores another win against the SEC as judge leaves its lobbying efforts under wraps. The SEC has screwed themselves so many times with this case. If they do win, if some chance the SEC wins, the worst that's going to happen is they're going to smack Ripple on the hand and they're going to fine them 25 million, 50 million, maybe 100 million. They get paid that with their eyes closed. They don't care, right? So it's going to be fine.
Yeah, and I think XRP is asking for papers to be released about how they graded Bitcoin and Ethereum as commodities. And I think they want to see what was the reasoning behind it. And then, of course, or most likely, they will fit the same criteria. I think that
exactly. Listen, Ethereum was the exact same thing. So if they're going to hammer XRP, they're going to have to hammer Ethereum. You can't do one without the other. They're not going to win it.
Yeah. So what do you think that would do with the price?
I think the price can still see some appreciation. Listen, unfortunately, XRP Army, I hate to tell you, I don't see the $10 XRP. It's just, the reason is you got to look at market cap. You got 100 billion XRP not in circulation. I forget how many is actually in circulation. I think it's maybe like, what is it, XRP, where are you? They've got 46 billion in circulation. Okay, you're talking a massive market cap there. This asset is going to remain around $1, maybe $2, maybe $3. That's where I think the price might pop to if they win this case. But other than that, done.
Yeah, and that would also fit Alessio Rastani's target for XRP. It's, I think the high end is $3. And that's what it was in 2017. So that would be quite realistic. And maybe double that if you're lucky, if you're very lucky.
If you're very lucky, but again, its all-time high was $3.84. That was on January 4th of 2018, 3 years ago. If it makes it back to its all-time high, okay. But anything above that, unless some big utility. Now, we all are aware that when they do use XRP, it does burn XRP. So the supply should begin to decrease. But again, remember, guys, you're talking 100 billion. That's a lot of effort. So not anytime soon.
Well, at least Jeb McCaleb isn't selling anymore. So that would,
he's almost out of ammo.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good sign. And Flare and Spark and all those kind of DeFi products are being released on XRP. So that's also kind of interesting what that will do with the price.
Yeah, and it's important to note that McCaleb is not selling because he doesn't have any more to sell. He's going to keep selling until he's sold all of them. Trust me, people, he's going to get rid of all of it. Okay, that's fine. But again, that should send a signal to the XRP army that you've got somebody who's literally selling again, it's back to Charlie Lee selling all of his Litecoin, right? Listen, if you got the person that doesn't want to back it, there's some questions there. And there's still questions with Charlie and Litecoin,
but he did it for the community, right?
He did it for the community. Right at the top, baby. Sweet.
Yeah, that's
I'll leave you alone, Charlie.
One of those signs that you're near the top is, when those kind of people start selling your coins, then you really have to be careful. I mean, that's like
you have to have one heck of a tax bill, though. That's for sure.
Well, I'm sure he can manage that. So, what else kind of news you see? Maybe something that we've been sleeping on that has been sleeping on the radar.
Yeah, I don't think it's slid on the radar, and you actually highlighted to me, and it's where I was going to go earlier when I was talking about Bitcoin can't until Bitcoin does, and that is Taproot. Listen, we've been hearing about Taproot, and Taproot's going to bring better privacy and smart contract capability to Bitcoin. It's locked in, and it's going to be here in November. So in November, we're going to hear the whole conversation about, Bitcoin can't be private. It's private. Bitcoin can't have smart contract. It got smart contracts. So just give it time, people. Give it time.
Yeah, because Taproot is what multisig. The multisigs are actually visible, and what Taproot does, it makes them invisible, basically, because they become the same as any normal transaction on the Bitcoin network. And then I think they want to move up to Schnorr, right?
Yep, and then Schnorr signatures is next. And it's my hope that By doing this erases the whole ESG conversation, because if we can find privacy to these coins, it makes them fungible and you don't have any idea where they came from, which would be a beautiful thing. And I hope they implement Mimblewimble on top of it after they've implemented everything else, just to make sure we completely make this thing anonymous.
Well, speaking about Mimblewimble, there was like way back, I think months ago, there was some hacker who sort of hacked Mimblewimble. I didn't do any follow-up. That was like the last thing I heard about Mimblewimble. Have you heard anything about that?
Yes.
Was that true story?
I'm not sure. I know Litecoin has implemented Mimblewimble on the Litecoin chain, at least on the testnet portion of Litecoin. I don't think it's been fully implemented on Litecoin, but if it does get implemented well and it works on Litecoin and it's stable, I guarantee you it's going to move over to Bitcoin, because Litecoin technically is Bitcoin. It's a fork of it. It's almost an identical replica of it. So,
yeah, so probably that was an overhyped story.
Yeah, I don't know about the hacking of Mimblewimble. I don't know if that went anywhere or not.
Yeah, I have to follow up on that. But also there was a little bit the same, like the FBI, who sort of, what was it? Got those Bitcoins, and then it turned out that they really didn't, hack the system, but they just took control of the server. But it was brought out as, oh, the FBI can now hack Bitcoin. It's like those, yeah.
It's unfortunate, because again, anytime I tell people this all the time, it's like, anytime you hear that Bitcoin's been hacked, just ignore it, because trust me, if Bitcoin got hacked, you would know it. This stuff about how they report that they got someone's Bitcoin or whatever, it's the same thing with Silk Road and with I'm trying to remember his name now.
Ulrich, what's his name?
Oh, yeah, Ross Ulbricht. Yeah, Ross Ulbricht.
Yeah.
The fact that they were able to get his Bitcoin still baffles me. And they were like, he got caught in the library or something, like there was his computer open. And then I'm like, I don't know about all that. But the reality is that, listen, no one can get your Bitcoin unless you give them your private key. And that's hard to do.
Yeah, and there are, of course, many ways the FBI could force you. I mean, and you can use your imagination.
They can waterboard you.
Convince you to give your private key to them. So yeah. And but I always wondered, because we're always talking about Bitcoin and crypto, but what is your view on like cash and gold and silver? What do they fit in the whole crypto movement? Would you say that it's also smart to have an allocation towards those resources? Do you think in the future it will only be Bitcoin, or?
I think there's going to be multiple things. So like Jamie Dimon was talking about, I'm going to be holding cash. It's the safest thing for inflation. It's like, you are crazy. No, it's not. Whoever wrote that headline should be shot, because that's not true. But yes, I think that there's going to be CBDCs, and they will have a role, and everyone ultimately will have CBDCs. No one will have dollars or yens or ones. All that stuff's going to go away. It's going to be the digital version of those. And yes, we're going to have Bitcoin and digital assets. It's just like we have today. We got cash, we got stocks, we got bonds, we got T-bills, we got all kinds of things out there. So I don't think it's going to be one take all. Hyper-Bitcoinization will happen well after I'm dead and gone. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think also, personally speaking, I think there should always be like a role for cash in society. I mean, you don't want, if there's like a solar storm, a solar wind, and all electrical networks go down temporarily, you do want to have some cash or some way to pay people.
That's what so way back, and this is way back in the day, and I won't say how far way back in the day, but back before, or when first electronic cash registers came in the stores, I can remember that. People were given the same things. Well, what happens if we lose all power? How are they going to buy food? How can the grocery stores work? I'm like, relax, people. It's not going to happen. This fear of everything shutting down. Now, have there been instances where a store has lost power and people couldn't buy food? Absolutely. Was it the end of the world? No. Even if we get into a situation, solar flare, we've been hearing that for decades. Even if it happened, I don't think it's going to be game over for everything. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. There'll be some complications, but it will get fixed.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I think in the 1900s you had the Carrington effect, and that was like a super solar storm, like that really.
Wow.
Even telegrams worked without power because they were working on the solar wind power. And they were working actually better than when they were hooked on the power system.
Wow.
You could see, but this is the Borealis. You could see around the Caribbean. So it was that far out. It was like one of the most massive solar winds ever. But I think right now we're in a solar minimum. So we should be fine for at least a couple of years.
Well, here's another thing too. I mean, and a lot of things are moving toward renewable, wind, hydro, nuclear. I mean, there's a lot of things that operate, and we will have power some kind of way, even if we get some solar flare that knocks out or supposedly burn all electronics, which I think that'll be the end of the world, period. And there's more things to worry about at that point than
true.
So I don't know. I think it'll be okay.
And we got our windmills. But
yes.
the other reason why I'm asking, because our friend Sorel, he wrote this really nice article about Russia dropping the US dollar and going into yuan and gold and euro. And you see Russia is a very interesting case because they're also into mining, of course, of Bitcoin, and they have a very interesting way of dealing with crypto. But they are also very big on gold. I mean, you see a lot. China also. So what is your strategies and those strategies?
I think a lot of the world is starting to wake up to the reality that there are other ways to operate than operating with the US dollar. Spells bad for us. But I think that this is just a natural shift. I don't know the actual stats. I don't have the charts, but money has existed for certain periods of time. I think like 100 years or something like that is the max, and 100 and something years. And then all of a sudden another currency takes over as the global reserve currency and things like we're living through a transition, and we're getting to witness it firsthand. There will be history books written about how we eventually transition from fiat currency to some other harder currency, things like that. It's just, I just look at it as natural evolution. Things will continue to move forward, and it's just the way that it is. I don't know.
Yeah, and maybe we could even do like a link between a virtual crypto and a physical object, like a coin, an NFT coin, and that would be So then you can still pay with it. Then you could still pay with it. Even if there was no electricity, and then it would simply represent what its virtual counterpart represents.
Well, if back in the day, believe it or not, there was a movement to make actual paper money that had a wallet address on it that you could actually give and pay in the store. So you would have a bunch of $1 bills per se with Satoshis on them, and you could go spend those at the store. And that's the value that was on those and stuff like that. Of course, it failed miserably, but I just don't think that, going back to the physical from the virtual, everything's going to be digital, unfortunately, in the future, everything.
No, I think you're right. But it's an interesting question.
It is.
So, hey, Paul, I really want to thank you for your time and for being on Bitcoin Live. And next time, I hope Jan will be here too. And,
Indeed.
The news cycle never stops. But before you go, do you think this week Bitcoin will go up, or you don't want to make a prediction?
No, I think Bitcoin, as I look at the chart right now, we're at the top part of the Bollinger Band. The Bollinger Band has gotten incredibly narrow. As a matter of fact, it's like within, I think, a $10,000 band, maybe even $5,000 band. It's getting really tight. And so I think there's going to be some type of a breakout. We got the moving averages crossing. So if we're at the top of this band, maybe it'll pull back, retest the moving average. I don't think it's going to come back down and test the bottom of the band. If it did, that would be wildly bullish, though, because, again, it would allow ourselves to reset the oscillators and then bounce back off of the lower part of the band around 35 to head back higher. So I still think we're going to be higher. This might be the beginning of a breakout. So I say higher.
Because last time when Bitcoin didn't test the moving average, it did it for a record time. Like, what was it, 36 weeks before it tested?
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was crazy. Because the average is around 14 weeks, right? Was it something like that? So no wonder it crashed.
Right. And in bigger picture, I think we could possibly see ourselves get back up to around 45 before we do hit the on a longer term frame, the moving average, and then we might see some type of a pullback. But if it breaks above 45, then it's blue skies to 70, 75.
That's nice to hear. And we should get Fibo Swanee back on.
Yes, please. Quickly.
Well, Paul, I want to thank you again for your time, and yeah, see you soon.
Good. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye. So people, that was Paul McNeal, the crypto curator. He's always on the news. He knows what he's talking about because he has all the articles to back it up. Go to his website. I'll link it down below. Next stop, we have Krista Kim. That's why I'm cutting it short, because I have to prepare for the next interview and I'm just by myself. And of course, you guys can win 300 cats right now. Just start commenting cats and I'll just pick a winner and give somebody 300 cats. And for the next show, because for the people who have been following me on Twitter, they know I'm giving away 1,500 cats. So that's a lot of cats. And if I'm giving away 300 cats right now, that leaves 1,200 cats to give away, which will happen in the next episodes. I will pick 2 winners in the next episode with Krista Kim, and each of them will win 600 cats. So don't miss Krista Kim, be there. I might even give it away during the show, you know, at the beginning or in the middle or maybe at the end. But right now you can win 300s with Paul McNeal. So let's do it like this. Start commenting cats. I'll close my eyes and I'll press this button, and the name that appears wins the 300 cats. So let's go. I'll count to 3. 3, 2, 1, go. Evans. Okay, congratulations, Evans. You're the winner of the 300 cats. Well, I know how to find you on Twitter, so that shouldn't be a problem. I'll send it to you later. Right now, I'm gonna close the show, searching for the English word. And I always say 2 things: watch, learn, and earn, and makes you wonder.